Hey there Babylonians, it's me, Songs of Rays, and you're back with another legendary guide, and today we're looking at the Twisted Mercy legendary rifle. Now, what does this offer? Well, other than its stunning good looks, as with all the other legendaries that we've looked at, the tier 3 mod on this is Ultimate Vulnerability Bullet. Now, shots will inflict vulnerable on enemies, and this happens every single second, and this refreshes, so you can shoot it and be able to stack it across pretty much everyone. Now, unfortunately, vulnerable isn't the best thing to use, especially as a Technomancer, where most of your build can actually, depending on which way you go, whether you go freeze or whether you go toxic or both, you're able to apply vulnerable just as standard by shooting. So technically this mod isn't really for Technomancers, but it could be useful for other builds. Now, vulnerable as a status allows you to deal an extra 15% damage to that enemy that's already been afflicted by it. So obviously the first shot isn't going to do the extra 15%, but each consecutive shot that's after that is going to deal that 15%. So feasibly, if you're going for a DPS kind of build, then vulnerable is quite nice if you can fit it on, but in terms of taking up a mod slot, it's not exactly the best kind of thing that you want to be able to go for. You want to be able to go for your killing spree, to be able to get your Embalmer's Rage, to be able to get your Fortress and all that kind of thing, to be able to increase your damage by much more than 15%. That being said, we're going to look at this gun. So I went for a pairing of Embalmer's Rage just for the fact that this gun has already a high damage in the first place for a rifle, and also the crit multiplier is 250%. Now, to be able to have those constant crits, that is a massive damage output, and it's much better than the 75% that Killing Spree would be able to offer me. So I do think that I was able to show this rifle off to the best of its ability. Now, if you've been paying attention to the gameplay that's in the background, you will have been seeing that there's some high damage numbers, especially with the fact that this is a CT10 and obviously geared down scales to be able to match now that the new patch has gone through for up to 3 levels. So in theory I should be using level CT kind of 13 kind of gear to be able to do this level. So the fact that this can go even higher as if I actually do push this into a CT 15 is crazy, is insane. You'll be seeing things that are potentially rivaling that of the Earthbound burst rifle, but just in a single shot. Now, this rolls with crit damage, close range damage, and healing received. Now, unfortunately, only one of those is really going to make any kind of difference as a Technomancer, and then obviously the other builds will be able to benefit from the others. So the 30% crit damage on top of the 250% is huge. Like I said, you'll be seeing in the background, I've seen crits that will do over 700,000, which is, you know, more than enough to be able to pretty much down pretty much any enemy that I'm going to come across in CT10. And obviously it can only get better for CT15. Unfortunately, the ultimate vulnerability bullets don't really help in that regard, because like I've said before, you have to be able to hit first, to then apply it, to then get the extra 15%. So by the time that I've had to fire a second bullet with this gun, I've already taken them down to barely any health if they have actually survived. So why would I need another 15% on top of a second shot to be able to finish that person off? And in reality, I'm not going to. Now, if you get to CT15, potentially that's going to be different, because the extra 15% could actually make a difference. And also, vulnerability is great when you're working in kind of a co-op environment. But when you're by yourself, when you're running through these raids, as long as your build is decent, you shouldn't really need a gun that can actually add vulnerability. Like I said, in Technomancers, you've already got a build that can apply it. I would assume that's the same with the other classes. Like I said, I haven't been able to get any of those up to high enough to be able to inspect their skill tree enough. But yeah, in no way should you ever need to use this mod. You should just be able to use the gun for what it actually is. So does this make the Twisted Mercy a bad legendary? Not at all. The fact that it obviously, you know, looks, but we're going to skip over that point because I keep mentioning that in every single video because I'm just a massive fan of how every single gun looks aesthetically. The damage is still high, the crit multiplier is still huge, it rolls with an additional crit damage on top of that, which is great. Vulnerability is not a bad kind of debuff to have. It's not, like I said, it's not going to be breaking into the meta anytime soon, but if your build doesn't apply it and you want to use your perk points on something else, then this isn't a bad shout. It does actually free up the Technomancer to be able to use a couple of perks from when you apply Toxic. You don't need to worry about that if you put your Blighted Rounds on top of this, because you're already applying the Vulnerable anyway, so why would you need to spec into it? You wouldn't. So in some ways it does help in that respect. It frees up a couple of perk points, but it's not really worth the trade-off. You might as well have that constant toxic applying and the constant vulnerability and all that kind of thing. Unfortunately, that kind of pretty much wraps up the gun for us, because there's not much that I can talk about with the mod. There's not much more testing that I can actually do just to be able to show it off. I can just give you the gameplay that's in the background just to be able to enjoy. I do think that Embalmer's Rage is a good place to start for another tier mod that can go with this. Like I said, the additional crit damage is huge for this, so why wouldn't you be able to give yourself that ability to be able to constantly do those crits that are an extra 250% damage? It just makes sense, really. So yeah, that's purely my recommendation. I wouldn't really recommend any other kind of mod. Like I said, all the standard ones can still work, but that's the one I would recommend. So that is it, ladies and gents. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay that's in the background. I hope you've learned something useful with this. I hope you do actually find this gun and pick it up and give it a go, especially you Technomancers that are out there. If you did enjoy this video, please drop us a like. Please drop a subscribe. It would mean the world to us. The channel is starting to pick up a little bit. It's starting to go a bit slow, but like I said, any and all subscribers are massively appreciated. If you're looking for a couple of carries, or if you're looking to get a little bit of experience with the game and all that kind of thing, there is a Discord link in the description. Hit that up, drop me a message, just have a quick chat with me, and I'm sure I can help you out at some point. In the other case, I hope you stay safe, hope you keep yourself well, and in which case I'll see you on the next video.